don't have any more. Hey, Brett, come on up. Okay, Brett, yeah, push the button on the mic and we'll be able to hear you.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to bring this to your attention about the landfill and everything. They're kind of singling out the tribes a little bit, I thought, when I picked up a copy of I guess you have a copy of it already on your phones. But anyway, that's what the deal is. I feel that they're kind of singling out tribal membership and everything like that on this thing. And there's an article in the Lake County Leader on it also that just came out this past week. But I think what would be a better alternative on it would be if they would go ahead and not incorporate, but go ahead and use the idea of a punch card type system to where you can go out and you can buy a punch card and everything like that from Lake County or whatever. And it costs you so much, whatever, you know, is a fair price. But I think maybe using a punch card would be a lot better than what they want to do here. This year, they're making it too political and everything like that. And they're just setting us up for another, well, political PM, so to speak. And a PM is, well, my phrase for a piss and match. So, but that's what I like to see them do. There's an alternative to what they're trying to do here. And the other alternative would be, well, my ideas of an alternative would be a punch card type system. And you pay so much every month or whatever, 2 months,
Thank you,
6
Britt.
months, whatever.
That's absolutely the most fairest way to do.
So,
You-
yeah.
You play, you pay. Those
Right,
that produce garbage pay for that service. And if you
right.
don't produce garbage or have real little, you pay less.
right.
And
Well,
so it's
thank you.
Based on volume, and that's the way
Yeah.
a lot of other places do that. So it's
Yeah.
not based on whether you pay property taxes.
So anyway, it's just something to think about for you guys because it's gonna be hitting us here pretty soon on it. And I picked up an application just by mistake the other day and everything. So I thought, well, geez, it's just not quite right. You know, it's politically one-sided. So anyway, consider that. I just wanted to bring it to your attention, and that's all I have today.
Thank you, Brett.
Okay, you bet.
Yep.
Bye.
Thank you, sir. Guys, go jump in the lake, huh? Gonna get hot today.
You guys taking a quick break before you start your agenda?
Sure, we'll take a
5.
5.1 second break. Okay, we'll come back up break. If I could ask, Len, can we do your item at the end of the day or?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll do Martin's later, so we'll get back to the schedule. We have Randy Ashley up.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of council. This morning I come to you to bring a request to continue purchases under the Volkswagen settlement. We're asking for a capital equipment request to purchase 2 Volvo semis for Salish Kootenai College. This is similar to the one, well, actually, this is almost identical to what we've done in the past. We've purchased 2 before, and they are on order currently.
Any questions for Randy? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to approve the capital equipment purchase for the Volkswagen Trust Fund settlement. Motion by Martin. Approve the capital equipment request, second by Carol. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, show of hands. Unanimous. Randy, before you go, I've got a question for you in regard to the Ray-Bine gravel pit proposal down in Arlee. They were talking about moving in a batch plant, asphalt mixing plant, and part of that proposal. Is there any tribal or federal air quality standards we could put in play that might modify that proposal?
We met on June 30th with the Montana DNRC, or DEQ, as you could call them, with Rich Jansen was there leading the meeting. Several people from the DEQ department and one person from EPA. We discussed the permit. We discussed the House Bill 599, which essentially has gutted the state regulations for open cut mining. So, but on the other hand, the tribe has a Class 1 airshed on the reservation, and that would come into play. But the only way to regulate something like that, since it's not a major source, it would have to fall under the method 9 testing for opacity. Any of the dust that's being coming off the site by the machinery, you could monitor for method 9, but it would have to exceed 20% opacity. And as we explained in the meeting, that would be very difficult to do because the source is actually moving at the time, and there's requirements under method 9 that you have to maintain the sun at your back. You have to have a cone of visibility that you keep the source in. It's very difficult to find violations for opacity with those types of mobile moving sources. So that also has in their permit, they also put in asphalt batch plant. At this point, we don't know if they're going to follow through with that or not. It's just something that they marked in the permit. So the asphalt batch plant is something similar to like what Plum Creek was a major source. And so EPA came over once a year annually and audited that boiler. They always passed the test. They were always under 5% opacity. When we look at Treasure State, they have something similar. They have an asphalt batch plant. EPA also used to come over and test that, and they always pass that test. Being as how it's going to be the same owner, I would expect that they would, the same thing is going to happen in Arlee. They would always pass the test. So there's, now I don't know with the regulations being weakened, if they're going to have more pollution than what is coming from Treasure State currently in Pablo. It just would be speculation on my point, but I think the overall, my opinion is that our hands basically are tied. There's not much we can do. It's up to them to fall into the violations. I was in contact with several people from Arlee, Mary Stranahan last night, talked to her. I talked to another concerned citizen, and I sent her the information I have. If the citizens want to get method 9 certified, there's nothing stopping them, and that they could probably sit on the border of the property and continuously monitor the asphalt batch plant to make sure that they're in compliance. That would be the extent of it.
Okay, thank you, Randy. Bing, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Say, Randy, I got calls too from these citizens in Arley, and they asked if we could have wanted to come to our district meeting up there and talk about this issue. And I'd say, well, I'd see if I could get somebody to come down and, you know, and talk with them and see where we could go with this, because if they were concerned about the air quality, you know, up there in the valley, and having that plant in there, they think it's going to be, you know, just going to do something to the air quality in our valley up there. But they're pretty concerned. They're really concerned about it, especially the dust, you know, coming from that plant. And so maybe when we get this set up next week, I can ask you to come down and maybe talk to the people down there, and maybe you know, let them know where we're at with this. I don't sound like we're going to be able to do too much with your comment there, you know, with it. But anyway, we could inform them anyway. That Mary did call. I think it was Mary that called me, and there was another one that called. But you know, it would be good for the people down there to know just where we're going with this, if you would.
Yes, I can do that.
Thank
So
you.
we don't have any monitoring going on in Arley. We have monitoring in Polson and Ronan and on top of Jetty, but we have applied to the EPA to get some sensor monitoring, which is not FRM or FEM certified for regulatory purposes. It would just, what it would allow us to do is monitor the amount of dust and particulate matter that they are emitting there and see if it's infecting the city of Arley. My intention was to place it near the school in Arley as the best place. And so that would be our only data that we would have on that activity down there.
Thank you, Randy. Mike, comment on this topic? Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Good morning. So just for your information, and I think Randy knows about this, Arley School currently has a purple air monitor that measures PM, I think 2.5, and I actually got 7 of them to put around the schools on a reservation, because I was really concerned last year about the smoke. And my grandson was in football, and you know, it's like I can't even see the mountains, and you know, they shouldn't be out there practicing. But anyway, I went and got 7 purple air monitors to work with the schools. So Dixon, Arley already had one, Hot Springs, Polson, Ronan, Mission, Two Eagle, and whoever else wants them. They're pretty inexpensive, couple $100. It's called the flag program, and they have different colored flags to set up at the school to let people know if it's safe to go out or if it's not. And they only need internet or Wi-Fi and electricity, and then they're all on a network. So if you Google purple air monitors, all those monitors anywhere around us are going to show up, and you're going to see what the particulate matter or the air quality is for those stations. That's it.
Thank you, Mike. I remember you telling me that at our climate change gathering, good information, good data, and they're comparable information. If there's already one on the Arley school, then there's a record what the current air quality is. So something to compare changes to. Thank you, Randy. Next, Melinda, come on up.
Good morning. I'm here this morning to get approval from council for a project-specific agreement with the Montana Department of Transportation. It's for a safety project that's going to be on Glover Road there's a map on page 15 that shows the location. So they're going to be adding a guardrail and some signing that will be alerting people to the curves that are there. And the guardrail is going to be installed to help prevent vehicles from going off the roadway, especially at the canal crossing. And they're also going to be installing a flasher for eastbound vehicles to alert them of the curves on the canal bridge. The project hasn't been let yet, and construction will occur next year in 2023.
Any questions from council? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to approve the project-specific agreement for SF 189 Glover Road Safety and HSIP 2465 and UPN 9894000.
So moved.
Motion by Carol.
Second.
A motion by Anita, second by Carol. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Unanimous?
Thank you.
Thank you.
I need to come get your signature, Tom.
Okay. $5. No. Here for the grandkids softball tournament. Thank you. Okay, Mike, you're up. Esquexpecia, you got a big crowd with you, entourage, huh? Oh, oof. All right, price going up, inflation. Question, Tony, you're gonna be on that field trip next Wednesday? Nature Conservancy? Okay, I'm gonna bring Bing along with me. We're gonna crash the party. Okay.
I missed the last one.
Yeah, I did too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to crash the party to ask him for some funding. So next Wednesday, I believe. Yeah, next Wednesday from 9 to 3. Yeah. Go ahead, Mike.
Untitled Chapter. Good morning and lumlumsh. Thank you for giving us a few minutes of your busy scheduled time. Very much appreciated. The last time I was in with the BIA resilience grant proposals, I talked a little bit about the America the Beautiful grant proposal, and that's what we're here to request permission to submit an application for that proposal. But I'd like to introduce some of our team members and the folks that we're working with that help so much. I always say that I surround myself with intelligent people so that maybe I can look a little bit, I don't know, maybe it helps. Maybe
Good
it
move,
don't.
Mike. Yeah, it's a strong move for
But
you.
great people, yeah. I need it. I need all the help I can get.
I know,
that's
I
for
do it
sure.
all the time. Yeah.
So I'm gonna let Lynn start.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having us. Oh, okay. I'm Lynn Huang. I'm with the U.S. Forest Service. I'm the Inventory Monitoring and Climate Change Coordinator for Region 1 of the Forest Service in Missoula. I'm also the co-chair of the Crown Managers Partnership that Mike thankfully is been with us for, I don't know, over a decade in this partnership. So
Good to meet you, Lynn.
Good morning. It's an honor to be here and to support another proposal to address climate change and issues around restoration and forestry and lands and waters that are led in such a visionary fashion by the Confederated Salish and Kootenai tribes. So I'm really grateful. And my name is Ann Carlson. I am the program director of the Crown of the Continent Landscape Program for the Wilderness Society, and I'm based in Shoto, Montana. And I've been a member very happily of the Climate Change Advisory Committee since 2013. And I also sit on the Crown Managers Partnership Steering Committee along with Mike, and the Crown Landscape Conservation Design Coalition leadership team along with Mike and Lynn. And so thank you for the time today.
Thank you, Ann. I don't know who that guy in the end is. I don't know who that- We all know who you are.
So there's a lot of other folks that are involved in this process. Sean, Finn, can you talk a little bit more about who else is
Yeah,
on the team? Go ahead.
is it just talking one person at a time? Okay. So, and interrupt me and back me up if I forget anything. So I think, I guess, Mike, I'm not sure how much of the Crown Managers Partnership the council is familiar with about the partners we have in there. We have many of our agencies in Montana and in Alberta and BC and First Nations and tribes, obviously. With this proposal right now, we have Sean Finn with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service leading up the landscape conservation design component of this. We also have Flathead National Forest, who will be implementing some pieces of white bark pine, the Lolo National Forest, and Glacier Park as well. So representation from all of those entities who will be coordinating implementation of planting and planting and thinning and daylighting on areas of white bark pine restoration that we collaborated in a strategy across the agencies and tribes and First Nations in the Crown. I think those are the major players right now.
And don't forget Aaron Sexton, whom I think many of you know, and Natalie Parimba and Phil Mattson from the Flathead Lake Biological Station. And then, oh, go ahead.
I did forget one more. So the state is also involved. We are, as part of this proposal, we'll be pulling together a weed risk assessment. The Montana Natural Heritage has put an assessment of risk and probability of weeds establishing for a whole suite of invasive, terrestrial invasive weeds in Montana. And part of the proposal will be to expand that model into with our partners in the Crown Managers Partnership in Alberta and BC. And then in addition to that, establish a model that will help us understand what we call important areas in the Crown of the continent. And these would be our ecological, cultural, traditional, economic areas that are at risk, are important for us in the Crown, and use that important areas map to help us understand where priorities may be in assessing and treatments for our invasive species. So Montana Natural Heritage will also be a partner in this proposal.
And then maybe the last piece I'll add is that the Confederated Salish and Kootenai tribes have very graciously, we asked if they would be willing to lead the proposal if it is approved by all of you to move forward, because of the tribe's visionary leadership and looking at all of these kinds of challenges holistically, and because of the work on the reservation that is really often pilots and tests new approaches that can then be adopted across the Crown. And then because of the role that the Confederate Salish Kootenai tribes play in leading and co-leading efforts across the whole landscape that then build off all of the work on the reservation.
So I was just going to add, yes, she touched on these. That's what I was going to add. Is this Confederate Salish Kootenai tribes part in this is multiple different departments and programs. Forestry will be looking at white bark pine restoration. Tribal Lands Department will be looking at weed spraying, herbicide control, and Salish Kootenai College well, there's Mark. Salish Kootenai College will be also part of this grant as looking at aquatic invasive control. So, and we've worked with the Crown on many different projects throughout the years, especially the white bark pine strategic restoration planning efforts, the mapping, which now we adopted and use now. And as you know, most of our commercial land base, most of our forestry is based on commercial land base, and part of the restoration efforts, we don't have direct funding for restoration of white bark pine. And so teaming up with something on this is a great advantage for us to be able to apply some of that funding to restore some of them non-commercial habitats and high elevation white bark pine habitat.
Mark?
Yeah, Tribal Lands was asked by Mike to see if we would be interested in partnering up with this grant also. And AJ Bigby, the range specialist, and Zana Fitz and I had sat down and started looking at it for the terrestrial invasive species that we have out there, and have came up with a plan too, because for the lands department, like Tony said, the commercial base for us is the agricultural side. So we want to get a handle on the weeds or anything else. And this partnership does have a lot of benefits for the lands department to be moving forward, white top, vent knot, or anything else. So we can get a grasp on our terrestrial species and be able to capture any of those outbreaks of infestations. And this is going to be helping us out a lot with this. And AJ is going to be spearheading it for the lands department.
So what department is it going to lie within as far as forestry?
Yeah, it'll be administrated by forestry.
Okay, thank you, Tony. Any questions from council for the grant proposal for the beautiful America the Beautiful 2022 grant proposal? Go ahead, Carol.
Yeah, I'm just curious, do we have an idea on how much funding is available for just like the invasive species plants, and is there a dollar amount?
So we put in 40,000 a year for 4 years. So that is a total of 160,000 for lands, 160,000 for Virgil to do. He's doing flowering rush. So he just needs to send a polygon to Lynn so that we know exactly how many acres. And then Tony's getting quite a bit more. So lands 40, Virgil 40, and then forestry will get quite a bit.
I'm sorry, I don't recall Sinishaw's final numbers, but so just to recap, the Virgil will get for the flowering rush work, it'll be 160K for over 4 years. And then same with the terrestrial invasives work along the, I think it's the Highway 93 corridor, 160 we're asking for. For the white bark pine work, we've asked for funds for forestry tech personnel to work for 4 years. I want to say that was around 120, but I'm not absolutely sure on that. And so that was for forestry tech time, also additional time for Sinisha as well. And then we've also requested quite a bit of funds for supplies and materials. Sinisha asked for funds for a cooler or a system cooler for the greenhouse. I think that was around 15K that we're gonna request there as equipment. And then supplies and materials for the climbing crews and the cone collection crews and the planting crews as well. And then also a lot of the herbicides that come with the terrestrial treatments as well. We've put in the supplies and materials. I don't have the budget right in front of me, so I can't say, but do you have that number? Okay, I can look at it. I'm sorry, I wasn't ready for that.
I apologize. I did send that to Jennifer this morning, and you'll have brain fog. I use that as an excuse, but I'm getting old. I had COVID twice, so I forget to do things and I think I did it, but I didn't do it. But anyway, I apologize.
So Mike, even
So you should
surrounding
have it
yourself
now.
with smart people isn't helping you.
Right.
Oh, yes, yes, there we go. The total supplies and materials line right now is at 160. Okay.
Can I
Yeah.
add follow-up a question?
Yeah, go ahead,
Mr. Chair?
Carol.
Yeah, so that doesn't seem like a lot. Is it? I mean, I don't mean disrespect because, you know, I'm kind of like Tom. I've been driving the reservation roadways and see all of the invasive species and issues that we're having. And I'm like, wow, I mean, my hair's on fire like his. So with that being said, I think we need to pursue every avenue we can between all three of your departments and others to try to battle this. It's just awful to see it on the landscape. So thank you.
So it doesn't seem like a lot when you think about the invasive species, especially on the 93 corridor. We're mainly focusing right now is going to be on the Ventonata and the white top. And that's specifically white top and just inventory and the rest. 40,000 is going to buy a lot of chemicals so we can treat a lot of acreage of the tribal parcels. So it is a, you know, it seems like a drop in the bucket of what we need to get done out there. I mean, the 1.3 million acres is a lot of land to be treating for invasive species. But this does help along with our other grants that we have and our VIA grants that we get. This will all compile into our weed program. It'll put us probably in a really good place to be doing a lot more treatment out there on the surface. So it'll be more noticeable this coming up years after receiving this extra 40,000.
Whisper, did you have something?
Thank you, Mark. I'm sort of a follow-up after they're done so that we can ask for a separate approval to pursue a second part of this grant.
Okay, I see. So the this particular project, then the total grant award from all the partners, this is how much?
At this time, it's sitting around $3 million is the request. I think I'm going to be getting some additional numbers from Sheena Shaw this afternoon. So that will probably bump it up a couple more 100,000.
So the full project we vetted through tribal forestry for the full 3 million and then divvied out to the other partners as we proceed through the 4 years of the term?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
Yes, for forestry part of it, we're gonna be collecting around $300,000 to $400,000 for our white bark pine efforts, which will cover, like Lynn said, cover our climbing expenses, cover our mapping, restoration efforts, planting, and a lot of our sow and grow in our greenhouse, which is if you know white bark pine, it takes 2 years to grow in a greenhouse and is a pretty spendy plant to grow. So it's going to do a lot for us. Recently, the past 4 years, we've operated under $30,000, 20,000 really, that we've received a grant previously for, or some monies from the Wilderness Society for our efforts. So this additional money is going to go a long ways for forestry and our restoration efforts for white bark pine.
Carol?
Yeah, is that the one that you have to climb to the top of the tree and, okay, cool.
Yeah, you have
We
to
heard all
climb
about
it twice.
on
Yeah,
our
you have to
field.
climb it twice, once in the spring and once in the fall. Yeah.
Well, you know, you got some pretty shady partners. I don't know if you count on them carrying on their projects here. I don't know. Whisper, one question in our action, do we have to include what you're going to propose or is that completely separate action?
I'm not sure. Looking at Amelia. I think it would be separate because she's going to apply under. Category you're gonna apply under?
Category 2.
Under 2. And so we're gonna set it up as a separate program.
Okay, okay. Just want to make sure before we take action. Thank you. Any other questions for our guests and staff? We, you know, it's a new funding source. It's about time to bring that one back. And what's important is we're going after the funding. There's a need for inventory. There's a need for some action, and they're identifying that. So I applaud you all. Crown of the Continent group has been a good group since its inception. So it's good. It's good we're doing it and we're taking a leadership role. Thank you. Any further discussions? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to approve the grant submittal to the America Beautiful funds for the project as described. Motion by Bing, second by Ellie. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Unanimous.
Lamb lunch.
Lunch.
Have a good day.
All right, thank you, council.
Thank you very much,
Thank you.
council.
Lynn, good meeting you.
Yeah, great meeting
I
all of
already
you.
knew Ann.
Sorry that I'm an add-on. We are also applying through the Division of Fish, Wildlife Rec and Conservation. We are asking for permission. We're working with a consultant for the rest of the week to get our application in place. There are multiple sections of this America the Beautiful grant that's available, and we are applying for a separate one than Mike and his group. What we are looking to do is create a recreation plan for the entire reservation, as well as like a implementation and maintenance plan. What we need is a consultant to come in, a landscape architect, and help us to facilitate how that looks here. And then we can try to pursue infrastructure grants, all of the building upon that once we have the initial plan. And that's for everything around the reservation, including the mountains, the rivers, the lakes, anywhere else that we think as a group that we might need to go through with that. We plan to engage forestry, lands, economic development, different groups in the tribe. So we won't have the external partners like the last application did. But before I really get going with my consultant and try to crank this out by next week, I did want to ask for permission before I put in all that effort and then come back and say, oh, well, we already are applying for them, but it is a separate one, separate section. And per the funding agency, we can submit more than one application per institution.
Carol?
I'm just curious if the public is also a part of that group. Okay.
I think the public should be, specifically the tribal member public,
Exactly.
so that we get the input from them about what they want and need. Part of our discussions with our landscape architects was solitude and destination management, so that we're putting visitors in places specific where tribal members can maybe be left alone in other areas.
Exactly. I think the 2 closures or 3 closures that we had last year, I think really helped me to open my eyes to say the tribal membership public needs to have input to make sure we're covering our bases as landowners.
Totally agree.
Any other questions for Whisper? Martin?
Make a motion to approve the application for them to apply for the grant.
Motion by Martin to approve the second application to American Beautiful 2022, second by Carol. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Unanimous? Okay, Constance. We have Constance and Patricia. Patty and Constance.
Morning. I want to say good morning to all the ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate the time to be on the agenda approved. I have Vanessa Finley here with me, who works with our personal care services elders. And we have our Jewel Kenmill, who is an elder who is on our personal care services and is in need of approval of a waiver for her 2 individuals that she has working in her home. They're basically working at this point with no income in regards to that, waiting for us to get this approved for them. Both have applied for driver's licenses, and Geraldine Claremont is got a schedule to get a license test in about a month. And Ernest Beavers is, he has a learning permit and is working towards getting his driver's license. But Jules is in dire need to have care in her home at this point. So that's why we're requesting a temporary waiver of the driver's license.
Any questions from council? Go ahead, Len.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As I recall, this issue has been brought up before, and we have taken action to approve a similar request like this. So I would go ahead and make that motion to approve the temporary waiver of the driver's license requirement.
Motion by Len to approve the temporary waiver.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead, Nita.
I would second, but I would also like some kind of a timeline to make sure that they are completed within so many months or something. Is that possible?
Constance, was there a timeline on getting that driver's license permit?
Well, Geraldine is going to be tested, I believe, by the end of August. And I think Ernest, 60 days ought to be plenty for them to get a license, both of them.
Okay. So, modified motion by Len to approve the temporary waiver for the driver's license requirement as long as they fulfill the requirement within 60 days. Second by Anita. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, show of hands. Unanimous. Thank you.
Bye.
Okay, I think we're up to Natalie.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, council members.
Good morning.
I'm here to request approval to submit a letter of intent to our 477 program and the resolution. We're requesting in this plan for 5 years instead of the usual 3 years.
And why is that? What's the change for the 3 versus 5 year?
In the past, it had all the 477 programs were under the assumption that we could only do 3 years. And during this last plan period, it's come to all of our attention that there is no time limit on the 477 plan. And I think there, besides us, there's 4 other tribes requesting 5 instead of the 3.
Motion by Martin to approve the letter and the resolution supporting the public law 102477 plan. Second by Jimmy. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, show of hands. Unanimous. Thank you, Natalie.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Could I bring something else up?
You sure can.
Okay, yesterday we had a request from Dire Need to pay $180 to dump at the Arley dump site. And so we were checking into this, and it sounds like the 180 is for a whole year, and it's going to come north. They're starting in Arley, they'll go to Charlotte, then they'll hit all the dump sites in our area. And the request is for 180 per year. They won't take the monthly of $15. And I was just giving you guys a heads up that this is coming. Right now, the gentleman that was told when he went to dump at our Lee yesterday. And so we are looking right now with dire need as it being a health hazard. So we were, until we can somehow get this information out to our tribal members. This first one, we're going to assist with dire need, but it looks like the 180 is coming throughout the reservation at the dump sites.
So this dire need recipient lives on trust property and not fee property?
Correct.
Okay. We've been having discussions about the county landfills change to fee schedule for people utilizing the county sanitation landfill. So we have that under discussion, Natalie. So thank you for the heads up.
Thank you.
You have anything else, Patty?
So I would just say certainly dire needs budget could be very well eaten up with this request very quickly from individuals that need assistance. So glad that you're undertaking those conversations with the county.
Thank you, Patty.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
Have a good day.
Oh, go ahead, Martin.
Just to, and it would go with my update anyway, but we need to make sure that, especially in a program like the Elders program, we are adhering to the indoor mask recommendation. I would hate to have an outbreak happen in the Elders program and it spread to a care provider, which in turn spreads to a elder. And in the last presentation, neither one of them were wearing a mask and sitting in pretty close proximity. Didn't look like it was outside. So thank you.
Duly noted. Thank you, Martin. Okay, Lawrence.
And I will follow up.
Thank you, Patty. Good morning. Good to see you both. You gotta push the button, Lawrence. We won't be able to hear you.
First thing I want to bring up is with the increase of cemetery fees, we're going to be running over budgets. And I have an individual here and the $5,000 was spent, part of it went to the funeral mortuary home and then the honorarium for the priest, and then food voucher or food check to the head person that was in charge of the meals. And so there was an overrun of $1,512.50 that's still owed Foster. As you know, Ronan and Mission and probably Polson now are all going to increase their cemetery fees, and that's really putting a burden on families. And the reason why I'm bringing this one up is that the person that is deceased, it's an elder that is going to be responsible for the remainder of the budget that's owed. The $1,512.50. I think I'm pretty sure the chairman is familiar about this issue. And even though it's this one individual is in dire need of assistance, you know, she's going to be burdened more with a bill that's going to make it more difficult for her to continue in a livable fashion. So I'm bringing this to the council to see if they would consider paying the balance that's owed the Foster Funeral Home
because Foster includes all of the cemetery fees and everything into his bill. And if the council would consider picking up this fee for the elder who is on fixed income of $1,512.50.
Go ahead, Lynn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for that, Lawrence. I know at one time this council discussed the option of increasing the burial allowance. And did that occur yet? Do we need to take an action to?
It's going to go up I believe $1,000 come October.
October?
Yes. So what you're seeing is a reaction already to the inflation value that's hit everybody really hard. So you could say this could be a request to bring that forward a little bit, especially for the consideration of the elder on a fixed income that is going to try to pay this bill for her brother. So that's the way that I would look at it, but it's real close to the amount we're increasing the budget to come October 1st.
Okay.
Go ahead, Carol.
Where was he buried at?
Sinielum.
Well, that's a tribal cemetery. There shouldn't be any fees there.
It may have been the Catholic part of it. I wasn't actually at the service.
Was it? Okay, because yeah, I have seen some of the services come through and they haven't went over, so I'm just kind of curious, I don't. Otherwise, if we start having the program bring in, the elder probably wouldn't bring it in anyway, so that's why you're doing it. Okay.
It's going to be something that has to be reviewed because all the costs are going to be overrun as long as they use these cemetery plots that are being increased in charges.
Go ahead, Carol.
But families do have options. They don't have to use a non-member cemetery, which is really tribal land anyway, wasn't it? Or didn't the Catholic Church give that to the tribe?
They gave we ended up getting part of the church land back surrounding the area.
But I certainly don't want to get in an argument with the family over a death of a tribal member, tribal member elder.
And it's difficult for families because they want to be buried next to other family members, and the costs have gradually increased. But you still want to be next to your family members, and so that's what the situation is here.
Martin?
In this situation, I would support allowing kind of an allowance or exception to the amount. Just because of the situation. I want to have an elder be more burdened after a death of a family member. Thank you. So if there's a motion, I would make that motion.
Motion by Martin to support the request for the balance for the Foster Funeral Home be covered. Second, Bing. Any further discussion? Go ahead, Len.
Mr. Chairman and members of council, I certainly support these types of requests. But if we're going to do it for one, we need to do it from all. If you guys can all recall, we've had a request earlier in the year from a family that requested to pay the balance of this, and that one was still pending. So I would just like to see, if we're gonna do it, let's do it for all of them, not just doing it for certain families, so. But I do certainly support this.
Thank you, Len. I think the uniqueness of this one is it's coming from a tribal elder from one of our cultural committees. And that would be the difference from the other requests that I recall.
Well, it's just the concept.
Yeah.
Of the whole entire
I
situation.
know, and then that original one was a catalyst for us to up the ante $1,000 for next fiscal year. So which is that's a good benefit for everybody. So hopefully this will
Yes, it
catch
is.
everybody next year as we proceed in the next fiscal year, hopefully. But I can't say what inflation is going to do. It's just, we may be chasing inflation all along here. It could be. So go ahead, Jennifer.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman McDonald. I agree with Len. I think if we're going to do it, it needs to be fair for everybody, and not everybody's going to ask for this. And, you know, it's supposed to be assistance, was never intended to cover the whole thing. It's my understanding. But I believe that when, you know, having gone through this with my own family, that all of those costs are stated up front. You know how much it's going to cost. And I think the burial benefits should go to the funeral home first, and then whatever is left over can be used for food, rather than spending, you know, a lot of money on food and then not having enough to cover the actual burial. You know, the money to pay for the burial should just come off the top. And there shouldn't be a way that people could overcharge like this, or go so much over, because that is a lot to go over. And I'm not sure how they could have not known that it was going to cost this much. And I know that things do go up, and I know there's inflation going on, but it seems like they would have known at the time. I don't even know who we're talking about. I have to say, I have no idea. But I think that as a family sits down to do this, that the funeral home would go over the cost, so they know what goes to the funeral home, so they know how much they have left over to spend on food, so they don't knowingly go over if they know they don't have enough money to pay for it. So I'm not sure how people get in this predicament, but I just think it needs to be fair. And I would feel comfortable going up as much as we're gonna increase the burial benefit, because then that's fair if we're gonna increase it anyway.
Carol?
Yeah, usually when Irma does this, all of those initial costs are taken out first, the burial and all that. So now I'm curious on what, you know, this wasn't a big funeral. I go to a lot of them. And so I'm kind of curious what the breakdown is. Are there flowers? I mean, or is it just the cemetery? What, it used to be 800, now what is it? $2,000?
Cemeteries are run by a board. Excuse me. Those cemeteries are run by a board, and they set the fees, and their ongoing concern is the expense of the plots. And I know that they do try to keep it down, but because of the expenses of getting the gravesite prepared and all of that, it's getting more expensive.
Okay, where
Yeah.
in here is it say?
And there's other costs that even though you're paying for the plot, then they have a cost for a cement vault to be, for that person to be placed in. So, and that's an extra cost too. So there's a lot of costs that go into burials within these specific cemetery responsibilities.
Okay, a lot, a liner and.
Martin?
So just kind of hopefully, so I know, would it have been if he would have been buried on our side, would it have been all this been paid for, or would it have been under cost?
Oh, it's gonna be,
From the looks of the receipt, it looks like there was a liner that was an extra $600 and then an ONC extra charge. So whether or not there would have been an extra 1,000 to 1,500 over.
to get buried in parts of California is now up to $15,000.
Yeah, it's one of those unfortunate investments that it's kind of, if you can, and if you do have the ability to buy a cemetery plot when you're younger, it's certainly, or have a site that has no charge, that's to your benefit. Any further discussion? I think Jennifer was making the suggestion that it would be up to $1,000 overage.
If we could suggest, if I could suggest language of saying special circumstances, because otherwise it just really does open the door for anybody and everybody. And I don't know, I think the situation that Len's talking about needs to be brought up again, I think, because there was some additional information we learned about that. And that's why we didn't do anything, but I'd have to be refreshed because I can't quite remember it all.
I think there was some other, we weren't sure if there was some other funding that was available that they proceeded to try to get or not. The small amount for military, VA, which isn't much, it's like $250, I believe. Isn't that right, Lawrence, when you're a veteran?
Not necessarily. It depends on where you're gonna be buried and whether those burial expenses are gonna be paid. Now, they'll take and pay for the full burial cost if you're gonna be buried in a federal cemetery. Other than that, it has to be approved by VA or the cemetery out of Missouri on what's going to be allowable, what's not going to be allowable.
Well, the important part is that we treat everybody fairly, and I think Lynn and Jennifer brought that up. And we also know that we're increasing the benefit of $1,000 here in a few months. Any further discussion? Go ahead, Mike.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Then are we treating Jennifer's statement as a motion to amend the motion for support? Is that what we're doing?
Does that work for you, Martin?
Out of respect for who this is for, I would leave it the same. But, you know, if it's not gonna pass based on that, because what was the amount? The 1,200?
$1,512, I think it was, and 50 cents.
I would leave it, I would pay for the full amount. I would like to anyway.
Okay, let's take a vote on it. Motion by Len to approve the overage costs excuse me, motion by Martin, sorry, Len. Second by Bing. Any further discussion? All those in favor, show of hands. So 8-4, Jennifer and Mike opposed? Okay. Okay, motion passes. All right.
Okay. And I've been requested to discuss a topic that was sent out to the tribal council on enrollment, and it's a letter that was sent throughout the council from Roberta Two Teeth. I have talked to Leonard before about this. But the request was that I explain the difference between how one person got enrolled and how their children never got enrolled. One of the things that she's talking about is an individual who was enrolled at birth. The reason why that person was enrolled at birth was because the father was a tribal member and the mother was a descendant of this tribe. So we could use all of that blood that the descendant had to include into the child that became enrolled. Whereas if you look at the children for Roberta, the children of Roberta has no father listed as a tribal member. So they're only entitled half of her blood. They don't receive any blood from the other spouse. That's why their blood quantum is not sufficient enough to be enrollable. I've explained this before to her, and I guess it's not being satisfactory to her. She wants to enroll her kids the same as the person that had two members that were, one was an enrolled member, and at the time, the other one was a descendant. The person that was a descendant at the time of the birth of the child is now an enrolled member. So that's how close it was. In fact, the descendant was 7/32, which was 1/32 less than a quarter to be eligible for enrollment. And the father was 55/128. So you take half of 55/128 and half of 7/32 gives you 55/256 from one side of the family and 7/64 from the other side of the family, which when you look at the child's blood quantum ends up 83/256, which is well above the 64/256 needed to be enrolled. That's why she was enrolled as a child. And the person that is requesting information, she's the only one that's enrolled. The other partner, unless she comes up with information that he is a descendant or is a member so that we can include that blood, the children wouldn't be eligible for enrollment until we can verify that the other person has Salish Kootenai blood in them.
Okay, thank you for that information. Lawrence?
Okay.
We also have a resolution bringing for approval for a blood correction based on DNA. It would make 3 of her children eligible for enrollment.
Any questions from council?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Len.
In regard to the process with enrollment. I always thought we had and I may have missed it. But usually we would have a meeting with enrollment office and they would explain to us exactly every applicant and how they came about and all the information, all the supporting documentation that acknowledges that these people meet the eligibility criteria to get enrolled. The reason why I bring that up is because all of us here on council, we continuously get questioned when we get new enrollees. And when that happens, we don't have an explanation. We don't know because if we find ourselves in these situations where and no disrespect to you guys, but when you guys come in and ask for are requesting approval of an applicant to be enrolled and we're not aware of the situation, it just kind of put us in a I don't want to say a bad spot, but just in a difficult spot when we have to explain to the membership. So I would like to get back on the track of having these monthly enrollment meetings with the council so we can go over each and every one of these and have a clear understanding of how the people were brought through the process and how eligibility was determined. So that's my spill and rant for the day.
Thank you, Len. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, Mr. Chair. Chastity, you're talking about a biological father in the lab report. I don't recognize as a father listed in the lab report.
So what they had done is they had went through LabCorp and they had done a sibling DNA, which would confirm if they were full siblings or not. And so that's how it came about, is they had the same father based on the DNA.
The biological father.
I understand that. I just like to make sure I know the connection.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Carol.
I agree with Len. I think we need to step back and go through the process that we initially set up to go through these. And if we don't show up, then that's our fault, but we need that available to us so we can at least, you know, when a membership asks us about something, we have the answer to be able to explain it.
Is that the consensus of council? The one thing that I really like is DNA testing. I gotta say, because it makes it absolute for me. And that's, you know, when there's other things where someone was, you know, back in the day, I really like DNA testing. So there's no doubt about it. So that's all the evidence I need is to say I have this DNA testing. But yeah, having the updates, it's good to know. I think that's what helps us with doing, I think, you know, a periodic meeting would be to keep apprised of what's going on with enrollment. Also, you know, figure out the technologies, making sure you're doing okay with the DNA testing on certifications and that kind of stuff also. So that might be a good idea to add on to that discussion point. Mike?
The other thing, Chastity, is that I don't have page 2 that gives the conclusion. If that could be included next time, please.
So just another comment, Mr. Chairman and members of the council. So no disrespect for the enrollment office. We all know enrollment is such a sensitive issue out there. And I think we just need to really be careful when we're going through the process here and making sure that we clearly understand the process that you guys went through to make these determinations.
Their decision.
I know it puts you guys in a bad spot because these applicants have been waiting for periods of time to try to get on enrollment, and sometimes there's deadlines that they need to make also. So, but anyway,
I personally would like to go back there on Monday meetings. I don't know what happened. Things just kind of fell off between communication, but it would be nice to update you on everything that's going on.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah, go ahead, Nita.
I'd just like to comment that the enrollment meetings used to be, I thought was very informative. It kind of got your questions up front, or if we needed more research or whatever needed to be done. It helped a lot, but I think that some people didn't come to the meeting, so hopefully we can commit a little better to the cause, but thank you.
So being a person that hasn't participated in that, when was it and how often? What was Lawrence? Was that every month at a particular day and hour?
They used to, we used to be able to meet with council it started off the first Monday, and then it was switched to the second Wednesday, or second Monday. So we'd meet once a month on that specific day.
Okay,
And then
Jennifer?
it got moved to like the second Tuesday of every month on a council meeting. Kind of when they done the SQCC and the KCC, that was automatically put on the agenda.
Yep, one of the concerns was, even though we were meeting on those days, maybe only 2 or 3 council was there. So when we went to the council, we had to go through the same thing again. So that was basically why they just switched us to the Tuesday.
Well, that makes sense not to have redundant information, to schedule it on a regular monthly schedule for a regular council time. That does make perfect sense to me. Is that the desire for council to do? Yeah. And Jennifer can set that schedule with Lawrence. Would council want to take action on this one or delay that until the next meeting? Do I take action on this one? This is DNA. Yes, it's DNA. So take, Jennifer suggesting we take action on this resolution today, and then set the future ones up for the annual monthly scheduled information. Okay. I would entertain a motion on this DNA results. Motion by Ellie to approve the resolution establishing the approval of the sibling DNA results for number 203 UO08438 to increase the blood quantum using the biological father's blood quantum. Is there a second by Carol? No. Second by Jennifer. Any further discussion? Question for Carol?
I was looking at the lab results and what Mike said, there was a second page missing. Is that where it says there's a 99.99? Or is it on the page that we looked at?
Yeah, the second page. Sorry,
Okay,
I had
so-
just told Jennifer I'd send her the first page yesterday.
Yeah, see, that's what I didn't see on here. I really didn't know what we were.
Yep, it's 99.98%.
So I think that's critically important that we have that second page. I didn't see that anywhere either. I thought, how do we know? Unless you're a mathematician.
Go ahead, Mike.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I'm assuming that the father was counted full blood?
Yeah.
Okay.
On the resolution, it reflects yes. Yes. No.
Any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor, show of hands. Oh, I thought Jennifer was the second. And you were Jennifer was the second. Anita?
I voted yes, Mr. Chair.
Okay, and Carol, yes, unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is that it?
Yep.
There was one thing I wanted to, when I was sitting back there, I saw all these Indians sitting here talking about scalping the white top, It just made me laugh. Oh, what a topic to be talking about, white top, and removing it.
Lawrence and I sent you guys an email a couple weeks ago. Sacred Path, they're part of the Pascawaukee tribe in Arizona. They're doing their own IDs and everything, and they're doing contracting. I know that's something we're going towards. I just wanted you guys to kind of have that information, just for another vendor to look at.
They're holding a border crossing meeting and real IDs. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Dan. Morning, sir.
Morning, Mr. Chair, Council. We have a number of updates this morning, so we would request executive session for them all.